Hello everyone, James Donaldson here with the Contemporary Gentleman. And first I want to say, if you want to support me, I'm on Patreon, Instagram, TikTok kind of, and of course you can like and subscribe. Now moving on, this video is about how to safely incorporate safety manipulation with your movements with your weapon. So, for more, stay tuned. Alright everyone, as I said in the intro, I'm talking about weapon safeties. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Not every gun, and not every gun owner, needs a weapon safety in their life. And by the way, when I say weapon safety in this video, I'm mainly referring to manual safeties. I don't mean ones that, well, there are some in here, and this is mostly comprised of automatic safeties, mechanical safeties, whatever you want to call them. Basically, what that means is there's safeties inside this weapon that prevent it from going off unintentionally. Pretty much in a weapon like this, and even the other one for that matter, you have to intentionally and deliberately press, depress, squeeze, pull the trigger. So, let's talk about that. The main thing is, you have an extra thing to do if you've got a safety on your weapon, right? So, many guns that are going to have safeties, some are single action, which if you go back to my video on how pistols function, you'll learn more. Single action, one pull the trigger, which means if the hammer's down, trigger does nothing. On this one though, it's double action, so the trigger does both. Now this is called double single, because you can either fire it with the trigger doing one thing, a single thing, or doing two things, which is pulling back and releasing, or just releasing. So this has a decocker, which looks scary, I know, but there is a firing pin blocker in there. And what all that means is that this is kind of complicated. Then you have your safety. H&K, unlike most other brands, excluding FN, you can do the safety whether the gun is cocked or not, loaded or not, etc. The safety works at all times. A lot of guns, you have to have the gun locked, / most times you'd have a round in the chamber, so that's the only time your safety works. More on that when we get to rifles. Now, in contrast, you have your Glock. There's not really anything to fiddle with. Rack it back. You know, in this case it's empty, but pretend it's around the chamber. Pull the trigger. Simple, right? Some people would be a little fearful of that, and I support that in a respectful way. Also, that gives heed to respecting a firearm, which is always important. However, as you get comfortable with a firearm, familiar with your firearm, there are some things to consider. So, we'll cover that in caveats and variables. First, let's talk about putting your mind with the safety. So you want it to be second nature, the operation of a safety. And by second nature, people use that term a lot, don't necessarily know what it means. It means that instead of me thinking, oh, I need to move my thumb to put the safety on, or move my thumb to put the safety off, my mind just thinks safety on, safety off. And my body, second nature, does everything else. I wasn't born with the safety, but I am operating it as though it was a part of me. So what does that look like? Well, if I had a double single action gun with a safety, I would carry it cocked in single action mode with the safety on, is how I would do it, meaning that my trigger squeeze will be consistent. If you don't know what that means, go check out my video on how pistols operate. Anyway, I'd be carrying it like this, and then when an occasion arose to draw it, I would turn off the safety on the draw. Now you can hear my safety clicking. I'm really not thinking about turning it on and off. All I'm thinking in my mind is gun up, gun down. And my thumb is doing that automatically. I promise I'm not messing with you, but that's how much I practiced. So, point being that as you draw your weapon, your safety's off. Instead of accidentally leaving it on, instead, there we go. So now I'll let you see the other side where my thumb is next to the safety. On this gun in particular, I keep my thumb over the safety. Now, you can't, your weapon won't conform to you, so you must conform to the weapon. That's something I learned several years ago. I find it very true for the most part. So, if your hands are different, you have the same gun. Or your hands are the same, or your hands are different, you have a different gun. You're going to need to find out what works well for you. I like putting my thumb over the safety on this gun because it's comfortable, I still have a good grip, and it helps ensure that the safety stays off. Because when I try to fit my thumb underneath it, it scares me that I could turn on accidentally. In this particular H&K pistol, you have to be pretty deliberate with your movement, but if I just squeeze, yeah, so there you go. Never fiddled with it like that before, but if I squeezed, so I did accidentally turn it on. Now, when we get to the rifle, well actually, let's step away from the studio for a moment into another part of the studio for rifle. Alright, so talking rifle here. Some things I want you to see. So, I am doing that whenever I bring my rifle up, as I'm doing it. So, basically as soon as my left arm is moving, safety's off. And then when I'm ready to disengage, so I'm mentally about to put the weapon down, that's when I engage the safety, right as I'm breaking it offline. Now, you say, okay, what if you had to raise it back up? So we'll try that. It's back on. Second nature. And of course, I didn't really mention bringing your pistol down, so I don't have a holster for this, of course, so safety's on, hammer back. So we'll have that there. So weapon up, weapon down, pistol up, pistol down. And there we go. Simple as that. Up, down. There you have it. Let's see if we can get a little closer. So up, down, up, should I say up, up, down. And there we have it. So overall, as you can see, it's pretty much the same principles, and obviously if you have a different rifle, you're going to need to take that into account, or whatever weapon you use, shotgun. These principles really work with any type of firearm, weapon, gun, whatever you want to call it. Now, caveats and variables. So getting right into the caveats and variables, some people don't want a safety because, for instance, police, people in law enforcement, not all of them are into guns. So they're not necessarily practicing at the same level others might, or people who aren't even in law enforcement or the military might be practicing. So that means that when you complicate life with the safety and all these other things that this gun has going on, basically you're adding a lot for them to think about when they suddenly find themselves in a very intense situation with adrenaline and a lot of other factors. Now, I do recommend people practice with stressors, but even then, real life is just different. So the more second nature skills you have built in, the better. Again, not everyone is doing these things to make them second nature. So, about 65% of police departments these days, I don't know if that's state and or federal, I would assume it's at least state, 65% of police departments are using the Glock pistol. Now there are the striker-fired pistols that pretty much function the same way, but for the most part Glock has more than half the market. And they were the first ones to have this design, which this is a Gen 5, but it's very similar to Gen 1. I'll be doing a video on Glocks here shortly. But, I don't really have to worry about safety or anything. So, cop that doesn't practice much, they're a decent shot, draw, fire. Now, the close. So this video was overall intended to give you ways of incorporating safety manipulation in your weapon ready movement, even bringing your weapon offline. So that way you could have safer manipulation, or at least a more aware manipulation of your weapon. Safe being making sure that the weapon goes off when it's supposed to and doesn't go off when it is not supposed to, which are very important things. So, this has been James Donaldson with the Contemporary Gentleman, and until next time, keep your composure.